Imagine the coolest man on your screen suddenly crashing into real-life trouble. He once ruled prime time with fast cars, shining suits, and a line of Hollywood admirers stretching round the block. Don Johnson owned the 1980s. Yet the moment the lights faded, his fortune began to slip away. Audiences gasped when he swaggered through Miami Vice, earning mountains of cash per episode. One year, he was television royalty. The next, he was signing risky deals just to keep food on the table. The public saw a living legend. Yet Don was fighting a private nightmare none of them could imagine. Before we dive into the heartbreak, you have to feel the height of his glory. Back in the 1980s, every style guide pointed straight at Don Johnson. White jackets, pastel shirts, no socks, pure swagger. He set trends so powerful entire magazines copied his wardrobe overnight. By the decade's end, he was raking in millions each year. Television hits, chart climbers, movie contracts. Don owned them all. He snapped up a huge Colorado ranch, a Hollywood mansion, and a sleek Miami getaway. His driveway glittered with Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Porsches that roared like lions on the freeway. The guest list at his parties proved he lived in another universe. Jack Nicholson laughed beside him. Barbra Streisand shared duets with him. Melanie Griffith wore his ring, while young Leonardo DiCaprio later dated his daughter Dakota Johnson. To outsiders, life looked perfect. Yet before the suits and yachts, Don's world was painfully different. He was born Donnie Wayne Johnson on December 15, 1949, in tiny Flat Creek, Missouri. His mother was 16, his father 19. Two teenagers trying to raise a child while counting every penny. Money woes forced the family to move to Wichita, Kansas, where Don grew up surrounded by hardship. No acting classes, no silver spoon, no secret Hollywood relative. Just long days, tight budgets, and parents stretched thin. Don later admitted they were often absent, their stress filling the house like storm clouds. When his parents divorced at 12, Don felt trapped. He finally bolted at 16, hungry for something bigger than small-town struggle. Even then, he carried a spark that refused to die. In high school, he was a handsome rebel who loved trouble almost as much as attention. Chance pushed him onto a drama stage when he needed extra credits. His teacher spotted raw talent and cast him as Tony in West Side Story. The applause hit him like electricity. Don said the cheers felt like the love he never got home, turning acting into a lifelong quest. After graduation, he chased a dream full-time. The University of Kansas awarded him a partial scholarship, so he enrolled in the drama department, then moved on to the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, the same school that trained future legends. Small roles in edgy theater and low-budget films followed during the late 60s and early 70s. A post-apocalyptic indie titled A Boy and His Dog won cult status and placed his name on insider lists, but true fame was still miles away. Throughout the 1970s, he scraped through endless auditions and rejections, always a nearly guy yet never the star. Then, in 1984, lightning finally hit. He landed Detective Sonny Crockett on a daring new series named Miami Vice. No one guessed the show would explode, but when it aired, it became a pop culture earthquake. Don was suddenly everywhere: magazine covers, music videos, late-night interviews. His pastel suits and lightning-fast speedboat turned police drama into fashion show. Cash poured in by the truckload as 5 blockbuster seasons rolled on. One day, Don was borrowing gas money. The next, he was buying mansions and holidaying on the French Riviera. The Kansas kid with nothing had morphed into a global superstar. Don's rise felt unstoppable, yet storm clouds were gathering behind those designer sunglasses. While Miami Vice dominated ratings, he chased a brand new thrill: music. In 1986, he dropped a pop-rock album named Heartbeat, and the title song sprinted up the Billboard chart. Crowds filled concert halls just to watch a television cop sing under blazing lights. He even shared a microphone with Barbra Streisand, proof that his fame now stretched far beyond television. Movie offers poured in faster than he could sign them. Producers begged for his cool charm, and paychecks reached 7 figures. With every hit, his spending soared higher. He treated friends to Mediterranean yacht cruises and bought art that cost more than most homes. Yet success can plant dangerous seeds. Behind the velvet rope, Don struggled with temptation. Tabloids whispered about all-night parties, broken relationships, and money flying out the door faster than it came in. Every headline chipped away at the golden image fans adored. By the early 1990s, the magic started to fade. Miami Vice ended, record sales cooled, and new shows failed to catch fire. Suddenly, those huge mortgages and luxury car payments felt like anchors. His ranch, his mansion, even his prized sports cars drained his bank account like leaking pipes. Desperation pushed him toward risky deals that only made things worse. He borrowed against properties, signed quick projects for small pay, and trusted advisors who chased their own gain. One brutal lawsuit claimed unpaid loans worth millions. Another creditor tried to seize his beloved Colorado ranch. Newspapers splashed a headline that Don Johnson was one step away from losing everything. Friends noticed the pressure carving lines into his once carefree smile. He fought to protect his family, yet each month brought fresh bills and fresh fears. The man who once defined cool now faced the nightmare of homelessness. At 75, Don finally spoke about the chaos. He admitted that fame taught him nothing about real money or true happiness. He said, "I chased thrills, bought shiny toys, and forgot tomorrow would come." The word stunned fans who still pictured him cruising a white Ferrari with wind in his hair. So how is he coping today? Don downsized, sold excess property, and learned to live within honest limits. He returned to television in smaller roles, happy just to work and stay creative. Family time with his children, including movie star Dakota Johnson, now matters more than yachts or chart hits. He mentors young actors, telling them the glory rush can vanish overnight. He warns them to guard their health, their money, and their hearts. He laughs at old photos of pastel jackets, yet treasures the hard lessons hidden behind that smile. Don Johnson's story proves the brightest spotlight can also cast the darkest shadow. One decade you are the king of cool, the next you are pawning treasures to keep the lights on. Yet through brutal losses, he found a harder kind of wealth, wisdom. Imagine a romance, so wild it made headlines more often than his hit TV show. Don Johnson's love life was as dramatic as any Hollywood script. He didn't just date, he sparked scandals. 5 marriages to 4 women. 2 ended in days with almost no public record. One bride was a dancer, the other a wealthy socialite, young, impulsive, and over before the ink could dry. But what happened when he met Melanie Griffith was even more surprising. They met on the set of a 1973 film called The Hero Experiment. She was young, he was rising fast, and their passion burned bright. By the time Melanie turned 18, they were engaged. They married in January 1976 and separated by July. By November, they were divorced. It was passionate chaos in true Hollywood style. Yet, that was not the end of their story. Over a decade later, they reunited. In 1989, they wed again and welcomed a daughter, Dakota Johnson, who would become a star herself. But even round 2 cracked under pressure. By 1996, it was over again. Melanie admitted, "He's no angel. He is not easy. It's hard for me to imagine life without him, but we are changing in different ways." Don refused to let their love die. He said, "Some people are just meant to be together. I don't believe that if you love someone that love dies. It changes and becomes something else." They stayed close, co-parenting Dakota and appearing side by side at her premieres. But Don's heart didn't stop racing. When he wasn't remarried, he was linked to other top stars. He dated Barbra Streisand in the late 80s, a glamorous power couple nobody saw coming. He lived with model actress Patty Darbanville in the early 80s and fathered son Jesse Johnson, now an actor. Rumor mills spun faster when he was spotted with Uma Thurman. That brief fling in the early 90s triggered backlash over their age gap. Then came Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, cast as his daughter on Nash Bridges. Yet they fell in love off camera. She was 18, he was in his late 40s, and the tabloids went wild. After whirlwind romances and tabloid storms, one marriage surprised everyone. In 1999, he wed Kelly Flager, a former preschool teacher turned socialite. She was 27, he was 49. Her calm grounded his storm. No scandals, no drama, just steady love. They built a quiet family with 3 children, while the world wondered how he'd changed so much. But beneath that calm surface lay a darker battle. Fame can be a double-edged sword. At his peak on Miami Vice, Don partied harder than he acted. The 80s club scene served cocktails and temptations of every kind. Long workdays bled into all-night binges. What he didn't see coming was how fast party thrills turn into dangerous cravings. He later admitted, "When I was a young man in Hollywood, illicit substances and partying were everywhere and it was hard to escape. It doesn't become a problem immediately. It takes time and it led to some poor choices. Alcohol and drugs became his escape from loneliness, anxiety, and impossible expectations. At first it was fun. Then it became chaos. By the early 90s, the crack showed. His next hit, Nash Bridges, masked erratic moods and wild outbursts. One infamous radio interview ended in threats and insults hurled at hosts Ron Diaz and Ron Bennington while he was intoxicated. Finally, he hit bottom and checked into rehab. He knew if he didn't stop, he would lose his family, his health, and his career. But even rehab could not shield him from the financial storm ahead. His spending had been reckless. Luxury homes, exotic cars, lavish parties. When show offers slowed, bills soared. Mortgages, loans, lawsuits, they all came due. Could the man who once owned the 80s survive the 90s crash? He sold properties, cut costs, and fought creditors. At one point, his Colorado ranch nearly slipped away. Headlines screamed that Don Johnson faced bankruptcy and possible homelessness. Yet in that crisis, he found a lifeline. He returned to smaller acting roles, learned to budget, and rebuilt trust with lenders. He discovered a new passion, mentoring young actors about fame's hidden dangers. Today at 75, he stands as proof that even the brightest star can stumble. Don Johnson's story warns that glamour without limits leads to ruin. But it also shows that with honesty, humility, and help, you can climb back from the brink. He cherishes family time over fast cars. He treasures health over headlines. He knows now that true wealth is wisdom earned through hard lessons, and that more than any Hollywood romance or scandal is his greatest legacy. Imagine a single scandal bringing down a star. Suddenly Don Johnson was headlines again. Everything changed with one event, the document scandal. By 2002, Don's pastel suit days were behind him. He still charmed crowds and flew private jets, but his heartthrob era felt distant. Then news cameras zeroed in, and not for a new show or red carpet. What surface was so bizarre it still shocks fans today? The shocking border bust. In November 2002, Don landed at the German-Swiss border. It's the kind of hush-hush route favored by billionaires and secretive banks. Customs officers did a standard luggage check. What they discovered in his briefcase triggered alarm bells. Hidden inside were financial files tied to accounts worth over $8 billion. These were not simple receipts or tax forms. They were high-level contracts, investment records, and papers for massive international transfers. The agents froze. They detained Don and launched a full money laundering probe. For days, he sat under questioning, watching his reputation teeter. If everything is legal, a German customs spokesman told reporters, you do not haul documents of this scale in a car. Suddenly, everyone asked, was Don a willing player in a secret banking scheme? Or just an unwitting courier for shady tycoons? Media frenzy exploded. Tabloids whispered that Don was a front man for an $8 billion conspiracy. Others claimed he'd been duped, used as a paper mule by ruthless financiers. But Don fought back immediately. He insisted he knew nothing of any crime. According to him, he was on a film financing trip with business partners. He carried only paperwork, no cash. I was transporting contracts, he said, not money. After weeks of digging, German authorities agreed. They cleared him of wrongdoing and dropped the case. No charges, no arrests, just stunned confusion. Yet the scandal stuck like glue. Headlines shredded his image. Fans and critics asked, was Don secretly broke? Desperate enough to hitch his name to a shady deal? Suddenly, he wasn't just the ex-Vice City icon with addiction whispers. He was a man tied to an $8 billion mystery. Hollywood hates scandal more than failure, and his career deals began to slip away. But his financial nightmare was only starting, the spending spiral. Even after clearing his name, Don's money woes exploded. By the early 2000s, acting jobs slowed. Instead of tightening his belt, he kept spending like a millionaire in overdrive. He juggled multiple homes, flashy cars, costly divorces, child support, and the everyday price of living as Don Johnson. I thought the checks would never stop, he might have said if asked. But reality hit hard. Risky ventures sank him further. He invested in businesses he barely understood. Losses mounted. Debts piled up. Cash flow turned to cash drain. It was a classic celebrity trap. Rich on the outside, broke on the inside. His biggest blow almost cost him everything. In 2004, Don nearly lost his 10,000-square-foot Aspen mansion. This mountain paradise sat in one of America's priciest zip codes. But missed $930,000 loan payment triggered a foreclosure threat. He faced hours from losing his dream home. Then, at the 11th hour, mysterious funds appeared. No one knows exactly where they came from. Rumors say a secret investor stepped in. Others guess wealthy friends lent a hand. A few insiders claim Don sold art and cars to raise cash. Either way, disaster was averted. But the world saw Don Johnson beg for time to save his home, and his legend cracked wide open. When one creditor wasn't enough, more demands came crashing in. He owed millions to Aspen Valley Hospital, to a local liquor store, and even to a law firm. A man who once ruled TV was pleading for extensions just to keep the lights on. Fans gasped. How does someone who made tens of millions end up one missed payment from losing it all? Reporters labeled it the ultimate riches-to-rags saga. Then came the lawsuit that stunned Hollywood. In 2008, Don sued Racier Entertainment for $23 million. He claimed unpaid profits from Nash Bridges, arguing the show earned over $1 billion in syndication, and he deserved his share. It was messy, public, and desperate. He needed cash. A jury sided with him and awarded $23.2 million. It was a lifeline, but it could not erase the reckless spender label. By his early 60s, Whisper said his star had set, studios stopped calling. Roles dried up. Hollywood can be cruel to aging stars, especially those famed for their looks. Relevance slipped away faster than a fast car on Miami Beach. But Don refused to vanish. He reinvented himself as a silver-haired veteran with grit. A second wind blew in unexpected places. He landed guest spots on edgy shows like Eastbound and Down. Movie offers trickled in. In 2024, he appeared in Netflix's Rebel Ridge, introducing him to a fresh generation. Suddenly, the man who partied through the 80s was a comeback story. Today, at 75, Don Johnson stands as proof that survival can outshine glory. He's no longer the reckless party boy or the broke star begging banks for mercy. He's a man who battled addiction, scandals, lawsuits, and near poverty, and still rose again. He cherishes sobriety, values time with his children, and embraces every twist of his journey. His downfall began when he lived beyond his means. Mansions, cars, glitz, without a safety net. Once the big check stopped, reality closed in. Losing millions taught him the greatest lesson of all. True wealth is wisdom earned through hard knocks. So what do you think? Did Don learn for good? Or is another storm waiting on the horizon? Let us know below.